Well, first of all, thank you so much for coming to this talk. Mr. Yaron Brook came all the way from Puerto Rico, and we really appreciate it. As long with this talk, we also did an interview, which also will be available to see. The topic of the talk will be, should you live for yourself or should you live to help other people? We're in a college campus. If you go around and ask every single college student, what did you write your college essay about? And 99.9% of them will be about helping people. And there's nothing wrong with helping people, but it's harming us more than it's helping us, and we need a different philosophy about how to live our life, and I hope Yaron Brook today will be able to provide that different perspective that could help us in this college and in this era to just live a little differently. So I hope you enjoy.
Thank you. Thank you, Juan. Can you guys hear me in the back? So we don't need a big mic, right? We're good? All right, cool. So I don't know about your moms or your fathers, but my mom taught me when I was growing up that to be a good person, to be virtuous, to be noble, to be moral, right? Ethical, you should always think of other people first. Think of yourself last. Think of other people first. She didn't really mean it. No mom actually really means it. She wanted me to be successful. And to be successful, you can't always think of other people first. But she, like every mother out there, was conditioned by our culture to hold a particular view of morality and a particular view of ethics that says that others are what morality is all about. It's about how you treat others. And the right way to treat others is to do what's good for them. And indeed, the more you think about yourself, the more you think about what's good for you. What's the name we have to that? What do we call that? This idea of thinking about yourself, your own interests, what's good for you. Selfish. The more selfish you are. And calling somebody selfish is not perceived in our culture as a compliment, right? What do we mean when we point at somebody and say, you're selfish? What kind of behaviors does somebody who's selfish exhibit?
Self-serving.
Self-serving, what does that mean?
Self-proclamation.
What's that?
Self-proclamation.
He talks a lot, okay, proclamation, but it's more than that. Come on, guys. When the kid in the school, you say, oh, he's a selfish. What does that mean? That he's doing what?
Pushing others down.
Pushing others down. He's a lying, cheating, stealing. He'll do anything to get his way. He'll exploit other people. He'll be an SOB. That's what we mean by selfish. So we're presented with this alternative. You can be selfish. In other words, a lying, cheating, stealing SOB. Or you can be moral, which means other people. Focusing on other people, taking care of other people, helping other people. And the ultimate of nobility, the ultimate of being moral means to do what for other people? To actually sacrifice for other people. Sacrifice your own interest. Show the world that you're actually not only are you not selfish, but you're actually selfless. No self. Selflessness is the ideal. As long as you are focused on others, as long as you help others. And selflessness ultimately boils down to the more you can show the world that you are devoted to others, the more noble, the more likely it is that you'll get a statue out there in the street, the more likely it is they'll name a boulevard after you. And what does it really mean to dedicate your life to serving others? It means to sacrifice, it means to suffer, it means to show some pain. You go to a museum, You look at paintings of saints. Lots of paintings of saints, museums. Ever see one having fun? Yeah, she's been to a lot of museums. Absolutely, never, right? Usually the arrows stuck in them, or they're about to die, blood splashing all over the place, suffering, sacrificing, dying. But the essence of nobility, of morality, as most of the culture teaches us, is pain and suffering, sacrifice. Not enjoyment, pleasure, happiness. And our philosophers, our preachers, our teachers, our mothers, they all advocate for this. At the end of the day, a model of morality, of sainthood, is somebody like, who comes to mind if I say sainthood, morality? Mother Teresa, of course. Perfect example, right? Here's a woman, middle class, upbringing, gives up everything, goes to India, helps people avoid death. Not helps them too much. We don't want to get them up into the middle class or something, because we want to keep them poor, because that's noble. The suffering is noble. She helps, I don't know, hundreds of people, thousands of people, tens of thousands of people not die of poverty. Does she enjoy it? She have fun? No, if you read her diaries, she's suffering, she hates it, she's miserable, she has a horrible life. But she's a saint. She is the example of nobility. And she's helped a few tens of thousands of people. And that's the standard that we have. And the question that I think we must all ask ourselves, the question that Ayn Rand asks, is why? Why should the standard, some ideal standard of human morality, be suffering? Why should it be pain? Why should it be sacrifice? What is so good about suffering? What is so noble about pain? Why should I live for other people? Why should I diminish myself, cause myself pain, cause myself sacrifice for other people? You only have one life, and have one shot at this. Your life is, indeed, by the very language we use, your life. It's not somebody else's. You experience life right here in this body, in this consciousness. Why should it be dedicated to other people? Why is their happiness more important than my happiness? Why is their well-being more important than mine? What is it that makes it a necessity to live for others? So why? And what's the answer? Why should you live for other people? Because somebody said so. Society said so. God said so. Some philosopher said so. But it's always somebody said so. Your mother said so. There's no rational reason given for why the one life that I have, the one time here I am on earth, I should not devote to my own happiness. I devote to other people. There's no explanation, reason, justification given for that. It's just accepted as dogma, accepted as absolute truth. And we all practice it. As Juan said, when you write your essays for college, you're expected to tell a story about how you've helped other people. What about how you've helped yourself? What about how you've made something of yourself? What about how you've achieved something for you? Now, that's being selfish. And that's associated with, and this is the other explanation, why you should live for other people. Because if you live for yourself, what's that going to lead to? What does living for yourself actually lead to? You're told. We are all told.
Nothing.
Lying, cheating, stealing, being an SOB. Only two alternatives that exist. Either live for others, or you're a horrible person. No alternative. And again, why is there no alternative? Really? Is there no alternative? And for, I don't know, thousands of years, it seemed like those, or at least hundreds of years, it seems like those were the only two alternatives. People forgot Aristotle, who actually presents a third alternative. Living for yourself. Trying to make yourself the best that you can be. Living the best life possible to you. Achieving, in Greek, in my butchering Greek, horrible Greek, eudaimonia, which the Greeks pronounce completely differently, but something like that, which is fulfillment, flourishing, happiness for yourself, not for others. But that's been forgotten. Nobody talks about that. I mean, maybe in philosophy classes where we study Aristotle. But almost nowhere else in our culture is there any focus on, no, life is to be lived, to make something of oneself, to be the best human being one can be, and to achieve as our purpose, to achieve happiness ultimately, to achieve success, to flourish as human beings, as individual human beings. And we can talk about what to do with other people in a minute, but let's start with, there's a life to be lived. There's a life to be lived. So I think Ayn Rand brings that Aristotelian tradition back. I think solidifies the ideas around this idea of living for oneself, egoism. And she asked the question, does selfishness actually mean lying, stealing, cheating, and being a horrible human being? Is that really what selfishness is? But other than Aristotle and Ayn Rand, there's almost nobody in the culture talking about self-interest as a moral ideal. We all have self-help. Massive section in the bookstore for self-help. Right? Usually you go to that section, I don't know, in your 30s or 40s, middle age, something like that, right? You don't do it when you're young, you're too busy. You do it when you reach a certain point in life and you don't know what life's about and you don't know what you want to make of yourself. And it might be too late, or it's pretty late by that point. And you go and you get the self-help and they give you 5 things to do, 12 things to do, 12 challenges to achieve, or whatever. But they won't break out of the mold of, but to be a good person, you have to sacrifice, you have to suffer, you have to live for other people. So what does it look like to live for yourself? What does it mean to live for yourself? To be properly selfish, to be egoistic? What is the alternative to living for other people? And the first thing to observe is that human beings are not programmed to know what's good for them. We do not have a gene that drives us towards self-fulfillment, towards survival, never mind fulfillment. If I drop any one of you into the Amazon jungle with nothing, you might survive. But you won't survive because of any instinct you have. Because you have none really. None significant. You won't survive because you have a gene for identifying, which, plants are edible and which are not, which animals, how to hunt animals. None of us have those genes. What would you have to do in the Amazon jungle if I dropped you into there in order to survive? What is the main activity you would have to engage in order to survive in the Amazon jungle? Just yell it out. No raising hands.
Build a shelter.
Build a shelter. All right? You definitely have to build a shelter. But how do you build a shelter? Anybody have the gene for building shelters? Anybody know how to build shelters? Never mind skyscrapers. But even a simple shelter, like a hut. I don't know how to build a shelter. I mean, I could do what? I could figure it out. I could think about it. I could experiment. I could try different materials. I could try different forms of structure. And I could probably build a shelter ultimately. But that would require me to do what? Learn, which is a part of thinking. I'd have to think. I'd have to use my mind. I'd have to observe the world out there, try to understand by observation the properties of that world, of the different materials in the world. And I'd have to actively go out there and change my environment, change the world out there to fit my needs. It's an active process of reasoning, of rational thinking, of accumulating information, of testing, of trying, of figuring out what works and what doesn't, and why something doesn't work when it doesn't work. You know, if you just look at us as human beings, we're pretty pathetic. I mean, just look around the room. I mean, you guys are a group of slow, weak animals. You have no claws. You have no fangs. You're right here in the Midwest. You try running down a bison and biting into it. You couldn't have done it. Really? Right in the middle of my flow.
Yeah.
Yell something out, all right?
All right, I'll wait till then.
Wait till the Q&A.
Okay.
I promise I'll take all questions then. You're not going to be able to run down the bison. How do we, in spite of that, in spite of the fact that we're pathetic creatures in terms of physical strength and speed, how do we get bison burgers? How come we're here and bisons are long gone? How come, you know, if you put you in front of a saber-toothed tiger, and they used to be saber-toothed tigers, right? You'd think the saber-toothed tiger would win every time, and yet the saber-toothed tiger's in a museum, and we are here, sitting in comfortable chairs. Heated, air-conditioned room. I mean, pretty sweet life. How do we get all this? Tools, weapons. How do we get tools? Thinking. So the way human beings survive and the way human beings thrive is by using their reason, by using their rational faculty. Everything in this room, every part of everything in this room is a product of human ingenuity. It's a product of the human mind. Every one of our values, every value that promotes human life, that makes human life possible, never mind amazing, is a product of human mind. So if I'm thinking about, I want to live a good life, I want to live the best life I can live, then what would be the most important value I would cherish? What would be the value that I would seek out, more important than any other? It's thinking, it's the mind, it's reason. It's how we have what we have. It's how we create what we create. It's what makes human beings human beings. I don't know what they teach you at University of Illinois about what makes human beings unique. It ain't thumbs. It's not empathy. It's not communication. It's our ability to reason. It's our ability to observe reality and abstract from it. It's our ability to create abstract concepts from evidence that we get from the reality around us. It's our ability to use the scientific method to discover new truths. It's our ability to think. Without that, we are nothing. We're just another animal out there, and we don't survive. Saber-toothed tiger eats us a long time ago. We're done. What makes us human, what makes us capable, is our ability to think. So if you want to be self-interested, if you want to be egoistic, if you want to live a life that's focused on you, then the number one piece of advice I would give you is, what is it? Think. Use your mind. Don't pretend like there's some other way to discover truth. Don't pretend like there's some other way to discover how to live. Don't pretend there's some other way to discover what the world around you is made of and how it functions. It is your mind that you are ultimately dependent on in order to live a good life. So if you want to be successful at living, think, use your reason, be rational. And use your mind in pursuit of your life, of how to live the best life that you can. Now, what about this idea that if you're self-interested, then you're a lying, cheating, stealing SOB? Is that what a rational person would want to be? If you're committed to thinking as a form of the way of living, as a way of achieving your values, are you going to lie, steal, and cheat? Well, if I'm a thinking being, I'm living in this reality, I want to make that my life the best that it can be, I want to be able to create the tools that will make it possible for me to survive and to thrive. And indeed, the way we get our self-esteem, the way we get our confidence, the way we get knowledge of our own worth, if you will, is by knowing that we can go out into the world and we can create the values that are necessary for our own survival and for our own thriving. Coming in from all sides. All right. So the way in which we gain those values is through going out there and producing, creating. Whether it's hunting down the bison, or whether it's making an iPhone, or starting some new venture in Silicon Valley or in anywhere you might be. Starting a business, going to work in an exciting profession that you love. But being productive, using your mind to change the world to make your life better. What happens when you steal? When you steal, you're basically telling yourself in the world that you can't hack it. You can't produce the values necessary for your own survival. That indeed other people need to produce the values and you get to take them using what? Using the means of an animal, a non-human animal. What's the means of a non-human animal? What do? Force, violence, physical. So it's a negation of your own humanity. It's a negation of your own self-esteem. It's a negation of who you actually are. Stealing is bad for you, not just because everybody else will hate you and come after you and want to put you in jail. That's good enough reason not to steal. But even a more important reason not to steal, a deeper reason not to steal, is because it undermines your own self-esteem. It undermines your own self-confidence. It undermines your own understanding of your place on this earth and the fact that you can take care of, the knowledge that you can take care of yourself here on this earth. You can produce the means by which you will survive. You undermine that, you undercut it, you create a contradiction in your own thinking, which is suicide. And thieves, interestingly enough, even ones who get away with it, are not particularly happy people. Don't believe the movies. It's interesting how in the movies, right, the crooks, the bad guys, are always what? Having a good time. Get the girls. Make the money. Seem to have fun. And the good guys? Depressed. Losers. Horrible lives. Because if you think about it, if you accept the standard of morality that the culture provides us, then being good means living for others. It means not living for yourself. Being good means sacrificing. Being good means suffering. And the movies just project that back to us. So the good guy is always suffering in the movies. And the bad guy is having a good time because that's the perception. The perception is pleasure, joy cannot be achieved through moral means. I'm saying it's the other way around. The bad guy's the depressed one. The bad guy's miserable. He hates reality, he hates himself. And it's the good guy who's having the fun. But that's because good guy means somebody who's taking care of his own life, taking care of his own values, taking care of his own mind. So be rational, be productive, have a purpose in life, seek out a career, pursue something with passion, with interest, with dedication, enjoy it, have fun doing it. What about lying? Is lying good for you? Shouldn't lie because you don't want to hurt other people? Is that it? So it's all about other people, right? Why shouldn't you lie? What does lying deal with? What is the content of lies? The content of lies is falsehood. It's the opposite of fact. It's the opposite of reality. It's the unreal. What does your reason depend on? To think, what do you need? What is the material of thinking?
Reality.
Reality, facts, evidence, right? What happens when you put in to this precious machine you have up here falsehoods, unreality? You mess it up. In computer science, there's this idea of garbage in, garbage out. Same is true of the human mind. Garbage in, garbage out. Dishonesty, faking reality, faking the facts is garbage. If you're committed to reason, if you're committed to rationality, then you're committed to truth. And if you're committed to lying, or you lie sometimes, then you're not committed to reason and rationality. You're undermining reason and rationality. So it's not good for you, never mind what it does to other people. So be honest. It's good for you. This is what it means to live for yourself. Be rational, be productive, be honest. And what about this idea of helping other people? Right? We're taught constantly that helping other people is the purpose. It's what morality is all about. And if you're self-interested, if you're egoistic, if you're selfish, you're not going to help other people. But this is where it's a really fascinating contradiction to me, because the people who help other people the most are the people that I think are the most self-interested, properly self-interested, rationally self-interested. Like Mother Teresa helped a few people, right? Thousands maybe. How many people, and put aside COVID conspiracy theories, how many people did Bill Gates help? By creating Microsoft and becoming a billionaire. How many people did he help? Billions. Billions. How do we know he helped them? And here I mean by helped, that their lives are better because of what he did. How do we know their lives are better? What behavior do they exhibit that shows that their lives are better? We'll see if I get the economics right.
Because they paid him voluntarily.
Yeah, because they kept coming back and be willing to pay the $100 to get the product, which means that the product is worth how much to them? More than $100. Otherwise they wouldn't have done it, and they keep doing it. It's not once, oops, I made a mistake, I'll never do it again. No, they keep coming back to Microsoft to keep buying more, which means that they think their lives are improving every time they buy the product. Because that's why we buy stuff. Why do we buy stuff? To make the world a better place. Help a fellow man. I know you guys go to the mall because you want to make sure everybody's got, a job. You've read your Keynes, and Keynes says consumption drives the economy. So every time there's a recession, you guys go to the mall and spend money, so you drive the economy because you care about other people and you want to help out. Right? Nobody goes shopping now. I mean, usually there's one kid in a class who says that's why they go shopping. And nobody believes them anyway. We go shopping why? To satisfy what? Ourselves. Whether it turns out that what we're doing actually is good for us or not is a separate question. But we are motivated by our own self-interest. And if we keep repeating the behavior, it suggests that it's probably making our lives better. I paid $1,000 for this iPhone because it's worth a lot more than $1,000. I mean a lot. I can't really express how much, and I don't want to because you might tell Apple and they'll raise my price. But I pay a lot more than $1,000 for this. I mean, it's changed my life. I remember life before this. And I can't imagine. It was awful. As comparison to what this can provide, right? I mean, how much money do you put on the ability to be able to tell your kids a bedtime story from anywhere in the world? I remember the days where you never made a long distance call because they were so expensive, right? From other countries. When I moved to the United States, I didn't call my parents for months because I couldn't afford it and they could afford it. So, and when you did, you cherished every minute, right? You ran through it and you didn't. Today, does anybody think about how much a call is going to cost? No. Marginal cost is zero. Every piece of music ever written in all of human history, ever published, is available on this thing at the marginal cost of zero. I can watch movies here. I mean, it's just, never mind the map, right? How many times have I not died because I didn't have to look at those stupid paper maps and the road at the same time? You guys don't even know what I'm talking about. Paper maps, what the hell is that? Right? Now I complain if the car doesn't have Apple, one of those connections where I can see, right? So this is amazing. Apple has changed my life for the better. So if we really look at who helps other people, it's like those self-interested businessmen, entrepreneurs. The greatest benefactors of all humanity in all of human history, entrepreneurs. They build everything. Without them, we don't have the wealth that we all enjoy. How much moral credit did they get for that? Roads named after them? Statues all over the place, right? Moral credit, ethical credit, do we think they're heroes? Good guys? No, we hate them. Can't wait to pull down another billionaire. Right? But how do you become a billionaire? Here's the most important thing you'll learn tonight. How do you become a billionaire?
By helping people.
What's that?
Helping people.
By helping people. A little bit?
By making things.
By making things, but what kind of things?
Building together with purpose.
Yeah, by making things that help people, that other people value, that they're willing to pay you more than it costs you to produce, and they're willing to do it over and over and over again, and billions of people are willing to do it. That's how you become a billionaire. It has to be scalable, billions of people, and it has to improve their lives. So the only way to become a billionaire is to make the world a better place for billions of people. And if you look at the big billionaires in the world in which we live, that's true of all of them. And yet we demonize them. They're the bad guys. They're horrible. We tear them down. But they're helping other people. So if our morality really was, the morality in the culture out there, really was about helping other people, wouldn't they be heroes? But you see, our morality is not about helping other people. The morality out there is not about helping other people. It's about sacrifice. It's about suffering. It's about pain. It's about being selfless. Because what is the sin of the billionaire? What is the sin of every businessman?
Self-interest.
They're making money. They're making money for themselves. They're living in big homes. You know, we kind of like Warren Buffett. I don't know if you know who Warren Buffett is. We kind of like Warren Buffett because even though he makes a lot of money, he lives very modestly. He drives an old Cadillac. A little pathetic in my view. Right? Why? Because he doesn't want to be splashy, because he wants to be loved. You know, Bill Gates, on the other hand, has a whole room. The only thing in the room is a trampoline. The whole room is a trampoline room. How cool is that? That's why we hate him. Because he does cool stuff. He's made the world a better place, but he's enjoying it. That's a no-no. When does Bill Gates kind of become semi-okay?
Charities.
Yeah, he leaves Microsoft. God forbid you build stuff, create stuff, make stuff, employ people, create products, improve. No, you give that all up and you start giving it all away. That's when you're okay. And then even then he's not completely okay. Right? He's just a little okay. What would make Bill Gates, if we wanted to make Bill Gates a saint, and I haven't talked to the Pope, so I don't know if this is real, but what would it take to make Bill Gates a saint?
Give up himself.
He'd have to give up everything, move into a tent, give up the trampoline, move into a tent, and bleed a little bit for us. Right? Show that he's really suffering. And then we'd build maybe a statue for him. Right? That's a little sick. That's crazy. Here's a guy who's changed the lives of billions of people, made the world a better place in dramatic ways, improved human life on this planet, pretty much for everybody. Even people who get aid in the furthest, remotest place in Africa probably get that aid more effectively because of computers, because of software, because of logistics, which are driven by Microsoft. Touch the lives of everybody, and yet we don't give him any credit unless he bleeds for us. And it's not just that he still has money, it's that when you watch Bill Gates on TV, he like exudes this, he's having fun. He's enjoying it. He actually enjoys his life. And we can't tolerate that, not in our moral heroes. Ethics is about suffering, not about joy and happiness. But if you hold a morality that elevates rationality, reason, productiveness, then Bill Gates is a hero. And in my world, Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, these are heroes. You know, we can talk about Musk, but you know, these guys are really heroes. They produced, they've created, they've changed the world. They made it better. They've actually helped people, not by helping people, not by writing essays about how they worked at a soup kitchen, but by literally changing the world. By providing people something that they really wanted. Well, it turns out they didn't know they wanted it. But one of the great things about businessmen is they teach you what you want. Like Henry Ford once said, I don't know if you guys study marketing, you probably study a lot about focus groups, and you ask your customers what they like and what they want. Henry Ford once said, if I'd asked my customers what they wanted, they would have said a faster horse and a better buggy. I gave them an automobile and taught them that that's what they really wanted. Most of us don't have the imagination to imagine what the future could be. If Steve Jobs had asked me what I wanted in the phone, I would have never, ever, ever come up with this. Apple does exactly 0 focus groups. It tells you what you want. It teaches you what you want. That's the purpose of marketing and advertising, to teach us, to give us information about the things we should want. They actually help people. If you care about the world, you care about yourself. Or you should care about yourself. The beginning is you. The beginning is your life. As I said before, you have one shot at it. It's pretty short. It goes by really fast. You don't get a rewind. It's frustrating, right? Like it would be cool to be able to rewind and redo. You don't get any redos. You don't even get any rewinds. You get one shot, and that's it. And yet the culture wants you to waste it on helping others in some ambiguous, selfless, sacrificial way. No, you should help yourself. You should live for you. You should live for your happiness. But do it right. And the right way to do it is to be rational. It's to be productive. And that necessitates being honest and having integrity and living by your own mind. And having one final virtue, maybe we'll talk about this and then we'll turn to Q&A. That's having some pride. You know, Aristotle considered pride the crown of the virtues, or the queen of the virtues. And again, in a culture, pride is considered a sin, mortal sin. But what is pride? Pride is a commitment to being excellent, a commitment to living life fully, a commitment to being a moral human being. It's a commitment to all your other values and virtues. It's a commitment to being the best that you can be, to living the fullest life that you can live. It's patting yourself on the back when you achieve something. It's building that self-esteem that is required in order to achieve any kind of sense of happiness in the world. So be proud, which means take care of your own life. Take care of achieving your own values. Take care of your own mind. and live. Live with a capital L. Thank you all.
Thank you so much for this talk. Before we get into Q&A, I was wondering if you could talk about, at one point you said, people join a tribe because they don't trust their own mind. As we go through our lives, we go through this, this inner circles that we want to be part of a frat or this club or this and that. Just talk about that idea and its implications, and we'll get into Q&A. For Q&A, just talk loudly, and we'll go from there.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, you need to not confuse joining a group that you have shared values with, that you enjoy their company, that you get something out of. I think that's very different than joining a tribe. Joining a tribe is basically accepting the primacy of the tribe over your life, the primacy of the tribe's leaders, the primacy of their decision makers, and that your life is not subservient to this other group. There's no problem of joining clubs and even fraternities if there's value for you in that activity, in what's being presented. But what happens, unfortunately, is that when people don't value their own minds, when people are not taught how to think, and therefore come into adulthood without the one tool that they need in order to be successful in life, all they have is emotions. When we're young today, we're taught how to feel, how to identify our emotions. Everything I hear on TV, on the radio, from college students, is everybody tells me how they feel. I don't really care. I want to know what you think. I know what evidence you have, what facts you present, what you think. But there is nobody talks in those terms anymore. It's all about feelings. But feelings are not going to help you. Feelings are not going to lead to your success. You can't solve math problems with feelings. You can't build a bridge with feelings. You can't take man to Mars with feelings. It's the mind that'll take you there. It's reason, it's thinking. So when we take a whole group of people, a whole culture really, and tell them what matters is feelings, and then they start failing, and they're not happy, in spite of the fact that they're focused on feelings, they have primarily bad feelings, because good feelings come from achievement. And you can't achieve without using your reason. So they fail, and they're helpless. And what is the emotion that we get when we can't cope? What's the emotion you get when you can't cope? It's overwhelming.
Anxiety.
Fear, anxiety. We live in a society filled with fear and anxiety. And when you feel fear and anxiety, what do you look for? You look for other people to huddle together. And the tribalism comes from this huddling together. Maybe they have better answers. Maybe they know how to solve the problem. And of course they don't. And what do tribes always do in order to guide themselves, in order to get somewhere? What do tribes have to do? Well, they have to anoint a leader. Usually they anoint themselves, who somehow channels the spirit of the tribe and tells everybody what to do. And that makes us feel a little calmer, a little less anxiety, because now somebody's telling us what to do. We don't have to worry about it. It's on somebody else. We're still going to fail. It's going to be a disaster. But at least now we have the comfort of the hood, the comfort of the tribe. So tribes are there to fill a void of self-esteem, a void of success, a void of reason. We become tribal to fill that void. And I think you can see that all across America today. When we don't understand the world, we don't know what's going on, we're looking for other people to give us answers. And we just, yes sir, we'll just follow whatever they tell us. So I think that if you want to be successful and happy in life, avoid tribes. Avoid other people thinking for you. Only you can think for yourself. And think. Devote yourself to thinking and figuring stuff out and solving problems. And you know what? You'll fail sometimes. You'll get a lot of stuff wrong. But that's okay. That's life. Failure is an opportunity to learn. You know, Elon Musk, when he sends rockets up, he fails on purpose. Because every time he fails, he'll learn something new that'll make the next rocket more successful. He doesn't expect the rocket to succeed the first time, or the second time, or the third time. Entrepreneurs in Silicon Valley know they're going to fail. It's okay to fail if you learn from it, if you use it as an opportunity for growth, right? But again, all of that requires thinking and focus and energy around that activity. All right, questions. You had a question, so yeah.
Oh yeah, all right. Mobutu Sese Seko and Suharto and Putin are all billionaires, and they all acted in their self-interest, and they all stole. So how would you resolve this kind of apparent paradox? They seem to be acting rationally, and they seem to be getting rewarded for it, and yet they're not helping others.
So I wish I could project onto here a picture that I have in mind, but you can find this on Google. You can Google this. There's a picture of Putin on Christmas, on the Russian Christmas Eve, which is, I think, it's January sometime. On Russian Christmas, Orthodox, going to church. He goes at midnight. He's alone, and there's a picture of him standing there as the priest is doing his thing, and Putin is there. And you look at this picture, and he looks like the most miserable human being who has ever lived. I mean, I can't imagine anybody being more miserable than Putin is in that moment. And that's his life. Putin is a miserable human being, as are the other two examples that you give. Yes, they have money, but counter to what I said earlier, there are ways where you get a lot of money that are not self-enhancing, that are not helping anybody. And that's by stealing it. I mentioned stealing early on, right? They steal it. Putin stole it. Many dictators have stolen money. Stealing money does not lead to happiness. It undermines happiness. It doesn't lead to success. It might give you power, but again, power is not what leads to happiness. Power is not what leads to success. I mean, God, look at politicians. Look at their faces. They're the most miserable group of human beings on planet Earth. And the more authoritarian they are, the more miserable they are. They're just, they fake a certain level of confidence when they're speaking in front of people. But when you catch them in an off moment, you can see their soul. And it's a horrible soul. Because what they're about is power. Not about rationality. Not about productiveness. Not about building and creating stuff. So when I defended billionaires, I did not mean billionaires who steal. I meant billionaires who produce. And that is the fundamental difference. And even there, the caveat should be billionaires in a free market. Granted, we don't have a purely free market, but something resembling a free market. Billionaires in a semi-free market become billionaires by making the world a better place. They become billionaires by producing. Those who steal are undermining the very way in which human beings survive and flourish, and therefore undermine their own happiness. Yeah.
Yeah. So this question is something related to what you just said. So being an entrepreneur, so I also found a non-profit. So right now, what conflict of interest I am personally getting is, after solving some problems, I feel like I want to solve more problems. And where can I go? The first thing which I think of is, can I be part of an education, in the government? So I'm from India, so I'm getting a strong inclination towards politics. Hey, if I am being a political leader, if I reach that administration level, daily I will be getting people's problem. So
You'll be what?
Daily I will be
You will be dealing with other
daily I will
people's
be solving some people's problem, right? So now I am getting, so if I am an entrepreneur, I will be solving one problem, and if I am going on investors, so eventually investor will make me run for his own money, and eventually, so you mentioned few entrepreneurs who are really great, but if you see closely, many entrepreneurs are also something like running like a full-time job. They are not working for a company, but they are working for their own company under the power of investors, because they expect 10x or 20x returns. right? So the people who are going to put money in that startup.
Yeah.
So the conflict of interest, what I'm getting right now, what is the best thing I can do to help more people? Being an entrepreneur or being part of some government or political leader? What's your thought on this?
Well, first, again, I challenge the framing of the question. The framing of the question should be, what will lead you to have the best life you can have, not what will help the most people. Who cares? Your life is what should matter to you. And you should be thinking in the context of, I am not going to become an entrepreneur because I want to help other people. Bill Gates did not create an iPhone because he wanted to help me. Why did Bill Gates build an iPhone?
I don't think he built that iPhone.
What's that?
I think Steve Jobs.
Not this one, the original iPhone. Why did he come up with the iPhone? Because he wanted to help the world? For himself, but in what sense for himself? Why do entrepreneurs build what they build?
He knows what they do. They want it.
They want it. They love it. They're excited by it. And by the way, what else do they get from it? Money. They make money. Entrepreneurs do what they do because they're going to make money and because they're going to enjoy what they do. It's fun. It's exciting. It's challenging. It's stimulating. And if they're successful, they might change the world. But they don't get up every day and say, how can I help the most people? Let me do a list of... You start with, I want to build a computer. Right? Steve Jobs and Wozniak, I want to build a computer. I want to build the best computer in the world. I want to sell the computer. I want to be a revolutionary when it comes to computers because that's my passion. That's what I enjoy. That's what I love. You don't wake up every morning thinking, how can I change the world? How can I make the world, help people out there? It's exactly what I'm arguing against having your focus be. Saying that, if you really want to have the most impact on the world, positive impact on the world, then be an entrepreneur. If you want to have a negative impact on the world, then be a politician. Because the reality is, I don't know very many politicians who have had a positive impact on the world, overall, in a big scale. Very few. Very few. Founding fathers of America, one or two presidents here and there. Almost all of them have had a negative impact on the world. Almost all of them have left the world a worse place than before they took over power. Because what is the nature of politics as compared to entrepreneurship, right? Entrepreneurship is about voluntary exchange. It's about figuring out what I can create that other people will want once I explain it to them, right? But it's about them voluntarily engaging with me. I get better off because I make money and I have fun, and they are better off because they have a product they want. Right? Everybody wins. It's all about win-win relationships. What's the nature of politics? What's the essential characteristic of government? Control. Force. Coercion. There's no voluntary exchange with government. You say, if you're a politician, people come to you and you solve their problems. You solve their problems by taking out a gun and saying, okay, who's bothering you? Let me go shoot him. Or let me go pass a law that restricts his ability to do what he does. You're not helping. You may be helping somebody who might vote for you, cool, at the expense of a bunch of people who might not. But government is about force. Government is about violence. Now, I'm not an anarchist. I believe government is necessary. But I also am realistic about what government is. Government is force. And I want somebody to have a monopoly over the use of force in order to prevent people using force against me and against all of us. I want somebody to be the expertise. That, in my view, is what government is. Pass laws that protect property rights, that help define them, have a judiciary, have a police force, have a military. And that's it. Don't need anything else. Everything else I can do with voluntary exchange. And yet, if you become a politician today, you'll be doing a lot of things where you'll be initiating force on other people. Not voluntary. And probably not helping. Almost always not helping. Sorry if I'm destroying your idealized political views. But that if I achieve that, then I've made my day.
So I sort of need a clarification here.
Go for it.
You said something about being an entrepreneur and giving people what they want, and if you can make money off of that and think for good of society, that's going to make you a better person, right?
Not quite what I said, but okay. Let's see where you're going.
Yeah. So I mean, you know, the few examples that you sort of handpicked, which include Steve Jobs and Elon Musk, you know, these are a few people I look up to because they thought of the greater good of humanity, right?
No.
But
Neither one of them thought for one iota of time about the greater good of humanity.
well, they had a good cause because
They didn't have a
watch
good
their
cause. The
interviews.
cause was to make money and have fun. And Elon Musk has a cause to go to Mars. Now, is going to Mars for the good of humanity when you've got a population on Earth that within 20 years is going to start shrinking? I mean, it's not clear that going to Mars is valuable to humanity. It's valuable to Elon Musk, and I like the idea. I think it's really cool, but it's good for humanity when you've got a shrinking population. You can barely populate Earth, never mind Mars.
So no, but the point is still that whatever they did helped people, is what you said, right?
Yes,
Because
but as a
you're
side
saying-
effect, not as the primary.
Right. Now, what about like people who are acting on pure self-interest? For instance, let's consider the CEO of a tobacco company, cigarettes, right?
Yeah.
That isn't making the world a better place necessarily, or even Instagram, which feeds off of people's validation and gets them to get addicted to reel scrolling or whatever. All these instances, you know, you can take as examples of when companies or people are just purely acting on self-interest, and it's not making the world a better place. So is it important that in addition to you acting on your self-interests, that you also have this sort of moral objective of you doing something that will lead to the world becoming a better place?
No. And no, the opposite, right? I don't believe the moral objective is making the world a better place. The moral objective should be making your life better. Morality is not about other people. It's not about the world. Morality is about the kind of life you live. Now, I think to be a CEO of a tobacco company knowing that tobacco is actually harming your customer is probably not a kind of profession that leads to high self-esteem. It's probably not the most noble thing one could do with our life. Not because of that, because you're not actually producing a life-affirming value. It's a value to some people, right? People like smoking. They make that choice. But you know that it hurts, it's actually hurting them. They're shortening their life. They could do better if they had a little bit more freeway, a little bit more willpower or whatever.
But you don't care about that, right?
No, I think a rational person does, because a rational person who is selfish, purely selfish, cares about producing life-enhancing values, not making the world a better place.
Why though? He's going to die after some time, and then the world's not going to matter to him.
Yeah, because you want to build, what it means to be productive, what it means to take care of self, is to produce something that is of real value. Real value by what standard, you might ask?
Yes.
Real value by the standard of human life. That which promotes human life is of value. That which depreciates human life is of less value. And the more it enhances human value, the more productive, the more valuable it is to you and to other people. So yes, the guy who's selling cocaine, let's put aside tobacco, guy selling cocaine, which I think should be legal, so he should be able to sell cocaine, is, you know, he's fulfilling people's needs. Some people need cocaine, but he's not making the world, he's not actually producing something that is life-affirming. And I think that undermines his self-esteem.
But you said the same thing about Elon Musk a while back. You just said that he's making something, you know, in a world where people don't have enough resources.
No,
It's not going to necessarily make
the
the world
beauty
better.
about Elon Musk is that going to Mars is not going to hurt me, right? So smoking cocaine, I think, hurts me. Going to Mars is not going to hurt me. But if I did a utilitarian calculation, some kind of abstract utilitarian calculation of what the world needs right now, it doesn't need rocket ships to Mars. But I don't do those calculations. I don't believe in them. I don't think anybody should do them. I don't think anybody can do them, because there is no such thing as some utility function for the world or for anything, right? I'm not a utilitarian. But if you were doing that, you said greater good of mankind. Nobody does that. Nobody does that. You know, it was the capital devoted to Apple, better used for Apple than it would have been used if I could imagine 1,000 Mother Teresas. You can't even make the calculation. By what means do you do it? But I can say product X actually hurts people. Product Y actually helps people, those who voluntarily engage with it. And I think the product that helps people is a good. The product that hurts people still should be legal, and some people still desire to hurt themselves. Some people are suicidal, and that's okay. But the CEO of this company is not going to have the same kind of, joy of life as the CEO of that company, because he knows he's making a different kind of product. Now, Elon Musk is building rocket ships to the moon, to Mars. Some of us really value Mars. It'll make our lives as individuals better. It's pro-human life. Cool. It's not destroying anybody's life. Is there a better use of capital, again, in some kind of fantasy world? Sure, but who cares? There is no other fantasy world. So I believe that to be selfish, really selfish, all in, would mean to produce value-enhancing goods, life-enhancing goods. And the people who are not particularly selfish, who just after money or just after short-term satisfaction, will be the drug dealers of the future. And they're going to be around. There are always going to be people who are short-term. They're not going to be happy. They're not going to be particularly self-esteem. But they'll still make money. Not a lot. If drugs are legal, profit margins will shrink, and they're not going to make a lot of money. The only reason they're billionaires or drug dealers is because we've made it illegal and therefore driven up the profit margin. But if you actually make them legal, profit margins are zero. The same thing about tobacco, by the way. Tobacco companies wouldn't be making a lot of money today if we stopped all the restrictions and laws and everything and actually allowed for free trade in tobacco. Tobacco profit margins would be approaching zero right now, and there would be very little demand for the tobacco, and they wouldn't be as successful monetarily as they are. The reason disvalues values that go against, products that go against human life are profitable is because we've demonized, because we make them illegal, because we put restrictions on them. If you take away the legality of it, the profit margins shrink and go away. So real selfishness is caring about the values you produce. Real selfishness is being rational. Real selfishness is wanting to make a large profit, but not only wanting to make a large profit. A profit is just one aspect of success, not the only aspect of success. Yeah.
So in a world where majority of people have that notion of selfless morality, and let's say you have that notion of selfish morality, and it may make you kind of appear selfish, how do you navigate being an outlier?
Yeah, good question. So how do you navigate being an outlier? You might be self-interested, you might be dedicated to your own happiness and yourself, but the world around you is at least claims to be selfless. If it was really selfless, it wouldn't exist, right? To be really selfless is to die. But the world claims it without really living it. It's difficult. You're going to have to accept the fact that people are going to ridicule you. They're going to try to put you down. They're going to call you greedy. They're going to even sometimes, particularly if you're very successful, they're going to pull out the law to come after you. Look at them going after all the big tech companies now with antitrust, right? If you're successful, and, why did Bill Gates ultimately leave Microsoft? Not because he wanted to, but because because of the antitrust lawsuit, it became so unbearable to run Microsoft that he left. So yeah, it's difficult. How do you do it? You realize that it's your life. You have to navigate it. You have no other choice. You have to live for yourself. You have no other choice. And to some extent, to hell with it. And to the extent that you want to join a club of other people who are in the same boat as you are, who share your values, who share the challenges that you face, and handle it in a sense together. But it's going to be tough. It's not easy to be different and to challenge the status quo in the world out there. But what choice do you have? Live a lie, right? The alternative is to live a lie. So yeah, you gotta do it, and you gotta live by the principles you believe in, that you think are going to lead to your happiness, and find people surround you that share that to the extent that you can.
Wait, so kind of two questions. First, did you do an interview with like, I think Reason TV, like, I don't know how many years ago it was, but I saw you on YouTube, I think. And it was about capitalism, I think. Is that,
So I've done like a million interviews.
You were on YouTube, and I think,
yeah, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Please Google me. I did one interview with Reason TV many years ago,
Okay.
but I've been on many other, I've done many other interviews as well.
I'm just thinking back to it because I was like, I think it influenced like a lot of like different perspectives on like political and like
Good.
economic thought. So
Good.
first is thank you. But second would be, you brought like kind of a juxtaposition of like the political leaders, and I tend to agree. Yeah, they're not doing like the good in I think many moral perspectives, right? Selfish or selfless. But there was a point that got brought up about coercion, right? And another point that got brought up about how companies or entrepreneurs are showing people what they didn't realize they wanted. Like, if we apply that, I'm just trying to think about the companies that show you something that you didn't realize you wanted, and now you realize, hey, I actually want this so bad.
Yeah.
Want with the higher good of happiness isn't really true, because we know people want things that are conducive to like not their happiness.
Yeah.
So how much does like a government who is, you know, democratically elected, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we're not going to argue that like the political leaders are elected. I mean, they are democratically elected in the end by some process.
Yeah.
And the companies that we buy from are, in a sense, democratically chosen. Like I mean, the democracy is called free market, right? Like we elect whether or not Apple or Microsoft wins by.
So what's the question?
So the question is, how are they different? What's the?
Oh, they're different fundamentally because the one deals in coercion and the one deals in voluntary exchange. So you get to choose whether it's Apple or Microsoft, right? You get to go and you exchange, and you can you exhibit how much the thing is valuable to you by the fact that you're willing to pay for it. This is worth more to you. When you vote for a politician, and then give him the tool to coerce you, and to coerce your neighbor, and to coerce your competitor,
Okay.
then there's no choice there. Choice is out, right? You've given me power over other people, but why do I exert power over other people? Why should it be moral or legal or right for me to exert power over other people? The whole democratic process is a majority exerting physical force against a minority, a majority compelling a minority, not through voluntary exchange, but through compulsion, right? We're voting for a particular government. The government says, because we wanted them to, the majority wanted to, we don't like Amazon, we're going to break it up. There's no voluntary exchange there. The government's going to show up and rip Amazon to shreds. That's force, that's coercion. Now, it's in the name of the majority, but so what? The majority has no rights over me as an individual. The majority has no right over Amazon. Democracy, in the sense of we get a vote on everything, is the worst political system imaginable. There's nothing worse than majoritarian democracy, where everything is available to the vote. Because that just means the majority is always going to inflict damage on the minority. It's always going to exploit the minority. So the American system is not that kind of democracy. It wasn't intended to be that kind of democracy. It's becoming more and more of that. But the original American system was like, here are a bunch of things that nobody can vote on outside the realm of democracy. Free speech, right? Ideally, right, this is if I was rewriting the Constitution. Property rights. I think they had that intention, even though it doesn't come across completely in the Constitution. There's certain things that you cannot take from other people. You cannot restrict their freedom of speech. You cannot take their property. You cannot inflict certain things on them. Yeah, we need a government, so we'll vote. We're going to use voting to elect a few officials to do some stuff. But it's very narrow stuff, very little. And that stuff has to do primarily with, if it's a good government, security. Basically, that's it. Police and military.
No, I have a
Let me take this one. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just curious.
What happened? Battery died. Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
With regard to Ayn Rand's like specific writing,
Yeah.
What does she say about family and friends? I'm just thinking of a hypothetical where, I don't know, the teenager gets a full ride to college and stays home to like care for a sick mom, something like that.
Yeah, a teenager who cares for a sick mom. So friends and family are incredibly valuable. Let's start with friends first. Friends are an amazing value, and they're an interesting because they're a chosen value. Right? You have friends because you chose to have friends, which I'm going to differentiate from family, which you don't choose. But friends, you choose. And the relationship is built on kind of a win-win, a kind of a trade relationship, even though it's not money, it's spiritual, it's value for value. So you value your friend. If your friend gets sick or if your friend needs help, you're happy to help them because they're of value to you. You get more than what you're giving from the relationship. And when that stops, the friendship stops. If you're not getting, or if one side is giving and the other side is not giving anything or not getting anything, then the friendship goes away. We don't sign friendships for life. Very rare that you have a friend for life. It's wonderful when it happens, but it's rare. Because friendships are like that. Same with romantic relationships. It has to be a trade. It has to be a win-win relationship. If it's a win-lose relationship, it's a lose-lose relationship. Always. But the person that you have this relationship with as a friend or romantic partner, they're of value to you because of how they make you feel, because of what they mean to you. So it's kind of a selfish thing to want friends and to want a romantic partner. Family is more complicated because family is not chosen. You did not choose to be born. You did not choose to have these parents. You're just brought into the world, and in that sense, you don't have any inherent obligation to your parents. Now, if they did a good job, and if you love them because they're good people, and because they did a good job with you, and you value them, then yeah, you would want to help them because you value them. But if you don't, like, I don't know, some of you, not me, but maybe some of you, had bad parents. Abusive parents. Parents who didn't care. And you just don't like them. Then you don't owe them anything. They owe you. I believe parents owe a child up until age 18. Right? They brought you into the world. They took on a responsibility by bringing you into the world. And that responsibility means taking care of you until 18, giving you an education, feeding you, clothing you, all of that through 18. At some point, after that, they don't owe you anything beyond that. Once you become an adult, they might, again, they love you, they might help you, they might support you, but they don't have to. So you don't owe them, and they owe you only up to a certain amount. Now, hopefully, they were good parents. Hopefully, you're a good child. Hopefully, you love each other. And it's a wonderful relationship that lasts a lifetime. And that you benefit from each other. And yeah, you're happy to help your mother when she's sick because she's a real value to you and you really love her. And she did a good job when you were sick and you want to pay her back. Value for value. So again, it's viewing all human relationships through the prism of how does it affect my life? How is it consistent with my values? But this other person is a value, right? And again, how much am I willing to spend time with my mother? My career, I have a family, I've got a newborn kid. Am I going to put my money to the newborn kid or to my mom? Too many people, in my view, in our culture, are too obsessed with their families. Too dedicated to their mothers. Too dedicated to their parents. And you got to let go at some point. You got to become an independent human being. You got to stand on your own 2 feet, both in terms of emotionally and materially. And you can't sacrifice your life for an aging parent. There's only so much you can do. I mean, usually people do too much in terms of family. I'm not saying don't do it, but that is the error that most people commit. A second cousin comes to you asking for money. You don't owe your cousins anything. You don't owe your relatives anything. The fact that they have some DNA in common with you means zero in your life. Now, if they're nice people, if they're good people, it's a good investment. You want to help them, great. But just because they're family means nothing. Luckily, no second cousin ever asked me for anything. Because they know the response, yeah.
So a common criticism of capitalism is that it's all a rat race. It teaches people to believe that if they just buy this new product, they'll be happy, and it seemingly never ends. Is there more to capitalism than this pursuit of material wealth?
Yeah, I mean, capitalism really is just the freedom to make choices in your life. Capitalism is a system that leaves you free to make choices. It's a system in which we live in a society where exchange is voluntary. You want to pursue material stuff? You can. You don't want to? You don't have to. Nobody puts a gun to your head saying, you got to buy the next version of the iPhone. You get to choose. You want to go meditate in the Himalayas? Capitalism gives you the wealth to be able to afford the flight and to take off time from work and go meditate in Tibet. Right? You can choose to do what you want to do. And what capitalism is, it's a system that protects your rights. It protects your freedoms. It protects you from somebody trying to coerce you to live a particular way. Now, do we live in a world which is overly materialistic? In my view, yes. I believe that. I think people are way too consumed by instant gratification and, you know, the latest, greatest little gadget or little thing or the, I don't know, what was it? There's a movie on Apple TV about Beanie Babies. You guys don't remember Beanie Babies, but I remember when it was a big fad, right? Everybody had a Beanie Baby. It's stupid. Right? But I want to live in a world where people are free to be stupid. I'd rather they not be stupid, because then my world would be better if they weren't. I'd rather they be, but I don't get to decide what they get to do, what they don't get to do, what they value, what they don't. That's the beauty of capitalism. The beauty of capitalism is you don't have centralized control about other people's values. Everybody gets to make their own choices, right? You want to listen to your crappy music, which I think is true of almost all of you, you are free to do so under capitalism, right? And I could go listen to Beethoven and Tchaikovsky and Rachmaninoff in my home, and nobody cares, right? Nobody intervenes. That's the beauty, right? And hopefully we learn. One of the things capitalism provides us is the opportunity to learn what works and what doesn't, what satisfies us ultimately and what doesn't. We can change our minds. And because capitalism is this amazing engine of wealth creation, we can create wealth enough to be able to do amazing things. I mean, the amount of free, in spite of the rat race, the amount of free time we have, one of the big problems in modern society seems to be people don't know what to do with all the free time that they have. In spite of all the hours we supposedly work. The reality is 200 years ago, there was no free time. Nobody had free time. How many vacations did people used to take? Zero. No vacation. Vacations is a phenomenon of the 20th century. How many restaurants did people go to on average in a week? Zero. No restaurants. There were inns that you ate at as you traveled through a place, which you almost never did because nobody traveled anywhere. They lived in a little village and they didn't go anywhere. I mean, we don't have any perspective on what life used to be like before capitalism. Suddenly we're wealthy enough that we can think about, ooh, what restaurant do I feel like going today? And we have celebrity chefs, right? When I was growing up, there were no celebrity chefs. This is a new phenomenon of how rich we become. We're now, fine-tune what kind of food we eat, which I love, because I'm a foodie. But it's great. And we don't appreciate it. That's a tragedy, is we don't appreciate all the wonders that we have in the world around us because we have a little bit of economic freedom. Just imagine what would happen in the world if we had real economic freedom. It's hard to imagine how rich we would be and how many choices we would have. Yeah, in the back.
Yeah, so if you just assume that there does exist a person who is truly happy when they're exploiting and lying and stealing, like just assume that's true, that there does exist a person like that. In a sense, they're practicing a virtue that you advocate for, which is going
Pursuing their happiness.
for one's
Yeah.
personal happiness, but they're also going against a virtue that you've advocated for, which is don't lie, don't steal,
Yeah.
because it contradicts your human nature or something along the
Yeah.
lines of that. So, how do you resolve this conflict?
Well, one is I don't buy the premise, right, that such a person exists, because I think we are a particular type of biological entity that functions based on certain rules, just like gravity always exists. I think human beings are of a particular nature. You could be a psychopath, right, that doesn't care, is not happy, lies, steals, cheats, murders, and does all this stuff, and it doesn't bother them, but they don't achieve happiness. You could be Stalin, or you could be, what was the other dictators you mentioned, Putin or whatever. You can be those people. But what do we do with those people? Well, we lock them up. We lock them up. That's why you have a legal system. You have a legal system so that if you lie, steal, and cheat, we, the rest of us, say, we don't care if you're happy, not happy, if you're pursuing this value or that value, it doesn't matter to us. You're violating our rights. Therefore, we'll put you away. So, coming together in society, one of the values of coming together in society is to create a system of laws that protects us from psychopaths, right? And, you know, not that I want to go in this direction, but if we had a proper foreign policy, we would properly be protected from people like Putin. We don't, so we're not. So he gets to thrive in some bizarre way. But that's partially because the good guys let him thrive by not having a proper kind of foreign policy. But it's the same domestically. If somebody's a creep who literally harms other people and makes himself happy in whatever definition you want, you lock him away because he's harming other people. He's violating individual rights. Yeah.
So within the framework of capitalism as a system, it largely supports like short-term gain, especially for larger corporations that I guess they have like a duty to their shareholders to keep paying dividends, and so a lot of the time they can't invest into long-term, they have long-term investments.
Yeah.
And where I guess tragedy of commons occurs quite often, where they run out of resources such as oil and coal, and so the government plays a large role in like supporting new research that goes into like a clean industry.
Sure.
What do you think about that part of capitalism and like the drawbacks that might require the government's influence?
So I think that whole framing is wrong. I don't think it's true that corporations have a short-term incentive. It's quite the opposite. So I'll give you an example, but you know, do you know how long it takes a biotech company to make any money? And how many biotech companies make money? Very few. And the ones that do make money, it takes them probably 10 years of research to get a product, and maybe another 10 years of creating the product, marketing it, shipping it, 20 years before they make a profit. Capitalists invest in that company knowing that they won't see a dime for 20 years. And that of every one of their investment in biotech companies, of every investment that they see money from, 20, or maybe I'm exaggerating, 9, they'll see 0 or very little. I don't know of anybody who is more long-term thinking than capitalists. Corporations. You know, Apple is about to release next year these glasses that you'll be able to literally move a computer. You know, science fiction, right? How many years has that been in development? How many billions of dollars have they put into that? They could have just handed those billions in dividends to their shareholders. But no, they invested it. Why did they invest it? Because they know that in 20 years they want to be profitable as well. And why don't the shareholders complain? We want our dividends. Forget about all this investment stuff. Give us our dividends now. Because the investors in the stock, how do you price a stock? Anybody taking a finance class here? How do you price a stock? Like the theory, what's the theory of pricing any financial asset? the present value of future cash flows. Future cash flow. So the value of the stock today is dependent on cash flows that come in the future. Now it's true that cash flows 30 years from now are going to be discounted or worth less to me today than cash flows 5 years from now. That's true, because 30 years from now, who knows what's going to happen, and there's huge uncertainty about it, and I don't value stuff 30 years from now as much as I value stuff. So yes, there is a time discount, but that makes sense. That's completely rational. We shouldn't value things 30 years from now the same as we value things tomorrow. So the whole marketplace, and under capitalism, we don't live under capitalism, but in a free market, the whole marketplace is built around a constant trade-off between the short term and the long term, and between figuring out how to invest in the long term. You've got biotech companies that are investing 20 years into the future. You've got Apple investing in projects that might never come to fruition, but some of them might only come to fruition 10 years from now. How long have some of these companies been investing in AI? And only now is AI starting to be useful, and it's still not profitable, but it's useful at least. Decades. I remember in the 1980s, friends of mine working on AI. That's 40 plus years ago. And they made zero progress. Maybe little progress, incremental progress, and then suddenly it's become exponential. But you can't get exponential unless you make those little progress over many, many decades. That didn't come from government. Now it's true that today a lot of the basic research is being funded by government. But that's because government has asserted itself into funding it. When was the era of the biggest innovations we've ever had?
50s and 60s.
50s and 60s. Like, what was a big innovation in the 50s and 60s? Like, I'd say it's the 1890s and 1920s. Like, we got all in the span of like 40 years. We got airplanes, we got electricity. God, can you imagine no electricity? Running water and running sewage and all of that. We got the automobile, right? A world without, there were no automobiles before 19-something, right? The computers in the 50s and 60s, you get the chip, but you only really get computers really affecting our lives in a big way in the 1980s with personal computers. So, you know, these big innovations happened in the 1890s, 1910s. How much money was government spending in those days on research and development? I can give you an exact number on how much money government was spending in those days. To the cent. Because it was zero. Exactly zero. But since then, as you could argue, the military-industrial complex has grown, and government generally has grown. The government spends more and more and more and more money on basic research. And what happens when the government spends money on anything is there's something called, that economists call the crowding out effect. As they spend money, the private sector goes, well, we can't compete with the government. What is the cost of capital for the government? Basically zero, or very low, right? Government bonds trade at very low interest rates, right? I can't compete with that, so I'm going to focus my efforts somewhere else. So as the government spends more, private sector spends less, and suddenly you get where the government's spending everything, and then people come and say, see, can't have basic research without the government. Yeah, well, no, we had basic research without the government before the government stepped on us and took it over. And by the way, taxes are so much, so we don't have any excess to put into basic research. But imagine if our taxes were lower, if the government spending on basic research disappeared, would science disappear? No, I mean, philanthropists, investors, universities, lots of places would be investing in basic research. So no, I think capitalism is, long-term, appropriately long-term, not science fiction long-term. Oh, look at Elon Musk. Right? People keep giving capital to Elon Musk with the promise of what? One day I'll be profitable. How long is, what do you call it, the space thing been around? SpaceX. I remember visiting a SpaceX factory in the early 2000s. So they've been around since the 90s. They've been around 30 years, let's say. What's that?
2002.
2002. So 20 years. They've been around 21 years. Are they profitable? Are they going to be profitable anytime? No. I mean, they'll never be profitable. I mean, they'll be profitable after I'm dead, basically, right? That's capitalism. That's the longest term thing I can imagine. Who's short term? Politicians. 4-year cycles. 2-year cycles. I have to do something, right now in Puerto Rico, they're paving all the roads. Suddenly, they're paving the roads. Cool. Suddenly, we don't have potholes. Why? There's an election next year. And then for 3 years, they'll do nothing. And then 1 year, they'll pave the roads. The most important thing government in Puerto Rico can do is pave the roads. They can't do anything else competently. But they do it once a year, and everybody's happy, and they vote them back, right? But no, there's no long-term thinking in government. You can see that everywhere. In every segment of the government, it's short-term. Even in grant making, I could go on and on this. But even in grant making, the biggest problem in grant making for science in the world today is it's very inefficient. Most of the money is given for stupid projects. And you know who gets most of the grant money for science? Old professors like me. Right? If I was a scientist, I would be a superstar in writing grant proposals for the NIH or the whatever. And they would give me money because I'm old, I'm experienced, I'll be responsible. Guess how many innovations old people are responsible for? Close to zero. Innovation is a young person's game. It just is. By the time you get to my age, it's hard. Flexibility, the risk-taking, the innovation, the thinking out of the box, it's unusual. But government is not going to give young people a lot of money to do research, right? I mean, it doesn't tick the boxes, they don't have experience, the bureaucrats are never going to give money to young people, right? So it's got a bureaucracy. Who gives money to young people? Like capitalist entrepreneurs. So Y Combinator, Y Combinator? Their shtick was, they all come from other venture capitalists. They created this venture capital firm for the sole purpose that they had identified a niche that other venture capitalists hadn't seen. And that niche was young people with no experience, with no resume, who just had an idea. They would bring them into the office, they would give them the resources, they would help them with the business plan, they would help them out, and then they would send them out. And they'd been unbelievably successful, right? Because, and why are they doing it? For the money. But they realized an opportunity to make money off of young people. But the government doesn't do it for the money, so they give it to old people. Because it's safer. Government doesn't take on risks. Yeah.
I don't want to go back.
Oh, this guy, because he hasn't asked yet. Sorry.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what you have said about technology and like companies innovating, making our lives better.
Yeah.
But over the course of that process, it's inevitable that one company would win over the other one.
Yeah.
And eventually, they would consolidate, or the other one fails. And then eventually, when you have a monopoly, that would obviously prevent fair competition. So, do you believe that the government should have the power to break those companies up to, because not having fair competition would be suboptimal with regards to the common good?
So, suboptimal for whom and for what? Because, suboptimal based on your textbook, which presents you with a fake model of an economy that creates a fictitious platonic floating abstraction of competition and creates marginal this and marginal that, and based on that model, this is suboptimal. But that's science fiction. So you're creating policy based on science fiction. There is no such thing as a monopoly in a free market. There is no such thing as a monopoly as our textbooks describe it in a free market. There are people who have a lot of market share. A lot of market share. They don't behave like monopolists. It's stunning, right? What percentage of search does Google have? Like 90%, I don't know, some unbelievable market share. Have they raised their prices? How much are you paying for your searches in Google? Exactly zero. They raise their prices. I mean, they're monopolists. Why don't they raise their prices? Have they stopped innovating? Because that's what monopolists do. They stop innovating because they control the market. Why innovate? Nope. They're right on the cutting edge of AI and everything else. They keep innovating. Why? Or Standard Oil. Remember, everybody knows Standard Oil example, right? They had 93% of oil, all the refining capacity in the United States in the 1870s. 93%. What happened to prices? Well, if you look at the textbook, your textbook, which you should not read. No, I'm serious. There's a section in the textbook that deals with perfect competition and monopoly. Literally, that is not worth the paper it's written on. It should be, you should take it from the textbook and shred it. It's not worth anything. And it shouldn't be taught because it's not of value. It teaches you wrong ideas about the world. Right? So what happened to Standard Oil in the 1870s? Every year prices went down and quality went up. This is well documented. You can go into the original source material. You can find prices of kerosene. That was the main product they had. Every year went down. And they had 93%. What explains that? Why would monopolists behave this way if they control the market? Because what will happen if they don't? What's that? They'll get competition. And who competed in spite of the fact that he reduced prices every single year? Rockefeller was completely competed out of the kerosene market. Who competed him out of the kerosene market? I mean, literally, it became a worthless market. Who competed him out of it? His name's Thomas Edison. Electricity did. So not only are you afraid that somebody will start a business similar to you and compete on the same product, but you also should be worried about somebody creating a substitute product. A product will do the same thing you do, because what was kerosene used for? Lighting, right? A substitute product that will wipe out the kerosene market. And it did. Now, because one of the geniuses of Rockefeller is that he lowered prices so much, he got so good at refining oil, that he could pivot from kerosene to all the other products that we get out of oil, including the internal combustion engine. It's not clear at all that that would have been the winner in terms of transportation, other than refining was so good, so cheap, so effective at that point that it won out, and he was even richer. Even though he zero in kerosene, now he could make a lot of money in oil and other plastics, ultimately, or everything that we have from oil, which is pretty much everything that we use. He could benefit by the fact that he reduced prices. So there's just no example in history, in a marketplace, that is not protected by government, where a monopoly actually acts like a monopoly. It just doesn't exist. And the reason it doesn't exist is because, I mean, two reasons. One, there's always competition. Always competition. People say barriers to entry. The barriers to entry. No, that's exactly what capitalists are there for, is to overcome barriers to entry. They'll provide you the capital. If you figure out how to beat Microsoft right now, somebody will fund you. Somebody will help you overcome the barriers of entry. There's so much money to be made by beating Microsoft. They will go for it. And indeed, every few years, some company thinks they're going to beat Microsoft, and they get funding, and they try. And some are more successful than others, right, in any particular field. So one reason is a monopolist is always worried about competition. The second reason is that it goes back to my sense of, you know, self-esteem and the entrepreneur wanting to always improve. An entrepreneur doesn't want to be static. Stagnation is for losers. Nobody wants to stagnate. You want to constantly improve, constantly create better products, constantly make something better, not for the world, but for you, because you have self-esteem. Those two reasons, there's no such thing as a monopoly in free market. Where's their monopoly? Post office. If you deliver first-class mail in the United States, you go to jail. You know, UPS and FedEx have these exclusions, kind of, they don't define as first-class mail. They call it something else, so they're okay. But if you literally deliver first-class mail, you go to jail because the government protects the post office's monopoly over delivering the mail. Certain utilities, electricity, water, and so on, are protected monopolies. Could we have competition in them? Yeah. I mean, it stretches a little bit the imagination about how, but that's the beauty of the marketplace. The marketplace always comes up with ideas that we would never come up with. So, monopolies originally comes from something the king grants you, and it limits competition. If the state doesn't give you a monopoly, there are no monopolies. All right, in the back, and then we'll go to here. Oh, he's not paying attention. Okay, you. Go ahead.
Oh, me? Okay.
Yeah.
So, like you said, innovation is driven by young people.
Yep.
And in a capitalist world where, like we already went over, a lot of kids have those deadbeat parents. They have maybe family situations that...
I experienced parents having deadbeat kids. I don't know, but...
I mean, yeah, you could argue either, but a lot of times kids have parents that can't provide for them as financially well as other kids' parents because of the capitalist society.
Yep.
So, if we're trying to drive innovation, how are we...
No, that's upside down, right? The only reason parents can provide for their kids today is because of capitalism.
All right, I mean, okay, what I'm trying to say is, in a capitalist society, there's winners and there's losers, and sometimes with the losers, their kids may not get the same opportunities as the winners are able to give their kids. Okay?
So not everybody has the same opportunities.
Yes. Okay.
Absolutely. But the reality is that in a non-capitalist society, everybody's a loser.
Okay, sure. I'm not arguing against capitalism.
So there's different set of opportunities that everybody faces. Yes.
Yeah. Right. Okay. So what can we do as a society, within our government, or as people as a whole, to really extract the minds of our young people and drive innovation, even in areas of less financial wealth and where the parents aren't able to drive it for the kids as well?
Maximize opportunities, and you maximize opportunities by maximizing freedom. And you maximize freedom by eliminating regulations, controls, taxes, and government intervention in the economy. So that maximizes opportunities for people. It doesn't equate opportunities, because equating opportunities is a myth. It can't happen. And the only way you can pretend it happens is through physical force. And we're against physical force. So what you want to do is maximize opportunities by maximizing freedom. And what that means is, in reality, is get rid of public education. Like, what holds poor kids back are public schools, which don't teach them. It's crap product. It's the worst education in the world. The inner city kids in America get literally the worst education in the world. And it's provided by the government, free of charge. Surprise, surprise, it's really bad. I won't even let the government deliver first-class mail for me. I'd rather use UPS and FedEx. Never mind give them my brains of my kid to educate. So, privatize education. That means inner city kids will get a better education. They'll be in a much better position to
How would they pay for it, though?
Why can't you pay for education? You know that in the slums of Nigeria and Calcutta, there are thousands of private schools, that even in the worst slums in the world, parents can afford to pay for their kids' education. How much does education cost? Oh, a lot if you build swimming pools and you have a football field. But if you're just dedicated to education, to educate, and you're willing to educate in the environment in which the kids are growing up, it's not expensive. But if you're really worried about that, I mean, you can ask any audience in the world, how many of you are willing to contribute to a fund that will pay scholarships to poor kids to go to private schools? Every hand in the room goes up. So one thing that everybody's willing to contribute to. And if you really want to transition to that way, I'm willing to have the government pay for it, just not run the schools. Right? For a while. Not as an end result, but for a while. For the transition. And the other aspect of this is, and this is hard for people to imagine, I know, but it's the reality. If you actually liberated the economy, if you actually had free markets, do you know how rich we'd all become? There'd always be relative poverty, but there'd be no such thing as absolute poverty. And if you actually liberated the economy, the workers would become so much more productive, that they would earn so much more money, that they could afford their education. And that would, of course, make their kids even more productive, because they'd have even a better education. and you'd eliminate, the only system in human history that's eliminated any poverty is capitalism. And it's only been half-hearted and tried only a little bit, and we have made basically a highly regulated, highly taxed economy with a little bit of private. With a completely private system, it's just unimaginable how wealthy we would become as individuals. Poor, middle class, rich. And I don't know if inequality would grow or shrink. I don't care. Inequality to me is a completely irrelevant topic. What matters is absolute poverty. And if you can get rid of absolute poverty, I don't care how rich the rich get. Good for them. So that's how you do it. You maximize opportunities by maximizing freedom. All right, let's make this the last question. It is getting late. I had a long drive.
Okay, I wanted to go back to capitalism. So do you think it's a double-edged sword in a way where you have, for example, a company like Instagram, you know, starting because they want to connect people socially, but then becoming aware that scrolling is addictive and still continuing to, you know, push advertisements through the algorithm, knowing that their consumers are going to get addicted to their product. So do you think capitalism is a double-edged sword in that sense?
No. I do think we abuse the word addiction. Like when I was growing up, you were addicted to heroin, and you know you were addicted to heroin because when you went off of it, you would, you would freak out. It would be crazy, physically damaging. Like maybe you were a little addicted to tobacco, but I know a lot of people who smoked their entire lives and one day said, I'm done smoking, and put it away and went cold turkey, and nothing really happened. So are they addicted to tobacco? Maybe a little bit. But addiction to, what are we addicted now to? Porn, addiction to Instagram, addiction to coffee, addiction to chocolate. I'm addicted to chocolate, definitely. I mean, come on, people. You don't want to watch porn? Stop watching porn. Nothing will happen. You won't go into apoplectic seizure. You just won't watch porn, right? You don't want to look at Instagram? Stop looking at Instagram. I never look at Instagram, right? Am I addicted to it? I do look at Twitter, X. Am I addicted to it? No. You know, maybe I overconsume it sometimes, but that's my responsibility and I can rate it in. But this idea, everybody now is a victim. Nobody is responsible for their own behavior. Nobody takes responsibility for their own choices. We're all addicted to something. Addiction is just everywhere. And this is a complete negation of moral agency, of agency over your own life, of responsibility over your own life. Just say no. It's very easy never to look at Instagram. It requires a certain will to do it. But okay, it requires a certain will to look 2 ways when you cross the street. I'm addicted to looking 2 ways. I mean, really. It doesn't exist. These addictions don't exist. They're inclinations. It's psychologically difficult to overcome. All of that is stupid. An addiction is something physical. It's something chemical. And, you know, these excuses people make for not living up to the kind of lives they want to live. And they spend too much time on porn and on Instagram. And then, you know, they don't want to face themselves and say, oh, I'm addicted to it. You're not addicted. Grow a spine.
Yeah. There's been like reports that, you know, Facebook hired behavioral psychologists.
Absolutely. You know, when I was growing up, they used to tell us that over the speakers in the supermarkets, they used to do subliminal messages. They used to drive you to buy stuff through subliminal messages. And I believe it. I believe that the marketers did use subliminal messages. And yet, I never bought anything I didn't want. I've been off of sugar for 20 years. It doesn't matter how many subliminal messages you give me. I'm not buying sugar. I haven't put a teaspoon of sugar into my coffee in 40 years, I think. It doesn't matter what you tell me. I'm not putting the sugar in there. It's just, I don't like it. I don't want it. So, you're not automatons being controlled by Facebook's marketing team. They can try, and they will try. That's what she studies advertising. That's what advertisers want to do. They want to find ways to get you to consume the thing they want to get you to consume. Okay, try, please. Like, when I came to the United States, the thing that struck me really visually in advertising, this is late 80s, early 90s, were the beer commercials. You had all these beer companies like Coors and Miller, and there was no light in those days, Budweiser, and all these beers, right? They all taste basically the same. And the difference in the commercial was the color bikini the women wore in the commercial. Because that's all the commercials were bikini-clad women, good-looking women, jumping around, trying to sell you beer. And you know, I like women in bikinis. I'm a little sexist that way. It never made me buy a beer. I don't like beer. And I certainly don't like Budweiser, Coors, and if I'm going to buy a beer, I'll buy in Belgium. But I'll buy a proper beer. But it never made me desire beer. It made me desire the women maybe, but it never made me desire the beer. But they did it, and they keep doing it because some people, fine. But again, they don't have a spine, have a spine. So I just don't get it. I don't buy it. Yeah, the advertisers will keep trying to manipulate you. Your responsibility is to figure out what you want and to go get what you want and not to buy things you don't want. Don't buy things you don't want. It's very simple. I don't buy stuff I don't want. When I buy stuff, I have to have a reason for why I want it. You know, sometimes I'm frivolous and I buy stuff just on a whim, but it's rare. I value my money, I value my time, I value the stuff that I have. So your generation is committed to this idea that you have no free will, that you're just being manipulated by the man. Well, stick it to the man if that's the case. Stand up to him. Don't buy the stuff that he wants you to buy. Buy only the stuff you want to buy. Not meant to insult anybody, but it's the reality. Thanks, guys.
Well, once again, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
For coming. Thank you to every single one of you for coming. Thank you to everyone who helped set up this event, from the flyers and everything.
And won.
Really appreciate it. That was great. I hope it was interesting, productive, make you think, and we'll see you in the next one. Thank you so much.